Max. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. I had to make up my mind to get up and face the inevitable. I would have to have my face altered, or live with this scarred face, or hide away and beg Jonas to work for me again, where he'd have to meet my clients with what's left of my businesses. However, I'm happy Jonas is here with me, because I don't know if I can handle the plastic surgery alone, where my face is due to be altered forever, and I can't risk anyone seeing me. For the first time, I've needed someone to hold my hand. I don't know what's wrong with me anymore. But I do. I don't have the woman who's been my backbone, my rock to navigate me through this part of my life. I thought I'd never need anyone until I met Alex. Beautiful, and 110 pounds of confidence at 5 feet. However, me and my insecurities, with all my wealth, all of 6 feet, and I can't make it through another day without her by my side. She took charge of my life and made me a better man. It had never been anyone but us, and no one could come between Alex and I, not even Jonas, but I managed to cock up my wonderful life with my jealousy. Alex had been all that I needed in life. She calmed me with her body, willing to give in to me as well as take charge of my body. She would restrain me when I couldn't handle the stress of my businesses, and I'd submit to her knowing she knew me better than I knew myself. She'd lead me to our dungeon where she'd handcuff me to our bed, my hands and feet shackled, and she'd use her whip and her high heels on my chest and buttocks. If she didn't want to hurt me, we had a safe word, but I'd never use it because I thrived on the pain and the pleasure Alex had performed on me. Alex was brilliant in her use of my body. She'd have me turn on my stomach where she'd lash my ass until I gave her my safe word. Which I never would. She had been so precise with that whip and never broke skin, and I'd take it as long as I could. Afterwards, a serene calm would descend over me for days, and my dick would be hard for months, and she'd give herself to me in any way I'd ask. So greedy for her body and her openings, I'd filled them with my cum, and I'd be satisfied, and I could go on with my business of being rich and successful. I smiled thinking about how sexually satisfied I'd been before this, and before I'd made a mistake of not listening to her, when she tried to explain that she never loved Jonas, and she was trying to comfort him after his wife had been killed by her lover. It took over a year for me to get that into my thick head. She would never knowingly agree to allow Jonas access to her body. The body I'd craved and worshipped since I first laid eyes on her at my lodge. It made perfect sense now, but I couldn't think, because all that mattered to me was that she had given someone else what I'd enjoyed in our love together. It didn't have to be Jonas. I would have gone into a rage as I had and couldn't think, and sought to punish her and Jonas, which I did. Now I'm living to regret my actions because Alex isn't here with me, and she may never be with me again if she drowned as many think she had. I knew I'd never be the same if I couldn't find out the truth. If she's alive, she could be hiding from me and doing unspeakable things to survive. I can't imagine what I've done to this beautiful young woman and how I've changed her. I hadn't planned on any of this. For the first time, I'd been short-sighted. I hadn't planned on my life taking this turn when I set all this into motion. Hell, I hadn't planned on this part of my life where my Alex is missing, thought to be dead, and I'd never see her again. I'm responsible for the deaths of those men in the helicopter too, but I rationalized they had it coming. Who knows what kind of trafficking they were responsible for when it came to women, and perhaps teenage girls. I can't blame myself, and I never had before, but for one thing, and that was not being able to forgive Alex for marrying that man. Now if I could only see her again and have her forgive me for causing all of this, I would change everything about me. Well, I have to make one change that's destroying my confidence and security, and maybe Alex's love for me. I stared into the mirror after dressing in my dark blue suit, and taking one last look at Maximilian Blackstone. I gazed a long time at the man I thought I knew staring back at me, because it was like losing a part of myself when I no longer could recognize this man. I placed my palm on the mirror, as if I could keep him from leaving. Then I covered up the other half of my face that had been damaged in the helicopter crash. I shook my head because I knew I couldn't hide forever, and if there was a miracle and Alex was alive and she'd come back to me and the children, I felt she'd reject that hideous part of me. That part of my face that reminded her of what I had done to destroy us. However, I had to remember what Jonas had said. Your face isn't who you are, Max. Yeah, he could be right, but I would beg to differ. Now it's who I am, and I've defined myself because it was this face that got me where I am today, I thought, as I touched the mirror and murmured. Who the fuck am I? I questioned. Without Alex's love, I'm nothing, and I'd give anything just to see her face again. Staring at myself, I realized I would have to prepare my children to have a stranger in the house, but I'd depend on Jonas to make everything a lot easier on them. I hope he'd stay and help me through this, but after they'd hear my voice and see Jonas, then perhaps they could get used to me having a different appearance. Children are like that. They can adapt and change easier and faster than adults. They are my anchor now. Are you ready? I turned startled to see Jonas standing behind me, taking me from my thoughts, and reminding me when this is over and I come from the hospital with this new face, I'd have to get used to not having the face I'd had since I'd turned 20, but then that was the youthful Maximilian Blackstone with not a care in the world. There were no gray hairs, there were no lines etched around my eyes, and frown lines that appear to develop overnight. And there was no Alex to make my life and desires balanced. I have your satchel and bag, Max. You should be in that clinic for 3 weeks. That long, I thought. I'd forgotten it would take time to heal, because I'm having reconstructive and cosmetic surgery. It will take even longer getting used to a new face. I searched around the suite trying to find a way not to do this, telling myself I wasn't ready, but I had no choices because my choice had been made by me, and now as the result of my bad decisions. I'd been fond of telling Jonas when he'd screwed up how he'd made his choices and his bed, and now he had to lie in it. So did I, and now I'm facing the same thing. As we marched out of the door from the suite, and into a waiting elevator, I stood facing the door, but when a woman in her 50s entered 1 floor down, I turned away to cover the side I'd been disfigured and distorted by shards of metal and glass. She glanced over at me and Jonas with a smile. Jonas offered her a closed smile, I offered indifference, but I placed my hand over my scarred face as if it had been attached to my right side by glue and my hand couldn't move. You're twins. I can tell, and you look so much alike. Beautiful green eyes like sparkling jade, and you're so handsome that I had to tell you. Not for long, I thought. Your wives or girlfriends must be proud of such handsome tall men, she added, looking up at us seeing my left side. We didn't say a word, but aimed closed smiles at her. We couldn't tell her how fucked up a pair of twins could be, and how we'd fucked up every woman we'd ever met in one form or the other, either through jealousy, sex, or self-interest. That would take a lifetime to explain. When the door opened on the 1st floor, and the woman stepped out into the lobby, we were behind her, and she turned to say goodbye, and she caught sight of the other side of my face and I heard her say, I'm so sorry, young man. Even with that face, I'm sure someone loves you. How could they not? I bet there are things about you that the outside world doesn't see, but only the woman you love can observe. If only that were true. If only Alex could get past the idea that I left her to the wolves. But I hadn't, and she may never know that I had plans to get her off that yacht and bring her home. Plans not even Jonas knew about. I didn't want to risk Alex's life, and yet that is exactly what happened. Because I didn't tell her how much I loved her, and I wouldn't let her stay there another hour another day. Young man, have you considered plastic surgery? When the woman said that, I realized she was being kind with her words. However, it was then I understood the nature and enormity of the wounds taking up the entire right side of my face. At first, I contemplated not going to the surgeon. I almost told Jonas on our way to the lobby, I can't do this. I had been in denial, and I didn't want to believe my wounds were that severe. My delusions were made worse because I kept away from everyone once I got out of the hospital, because I didn't want this reaction. I fell into thinking it wasn't as bad. I saw what my mind wanted to see. Everyone I met, and including Jonas, pretended it wasn't that bad, perhaps to save me from breaking down completely and hiding away, but it was all a lie. The only one who did tell me the truth was the doctors and this woman. When I came to my senses and realized people lie not to hurt my feelings or others, but to protect those who can't handle the truth, I'd never subscribed to that. I wanted the truth, no matter how hard it would be on me. I'd always wanted the truth, no matter how it hurt. When my entire family died in a plane crash, I shielded Jonas from that horrific accident, because he'd just gotten out of the army and he had been severely damaged from years of service in Afghanistan. I didn't realize I'd caused him greater harm by not telling him the truth, and I felt he'd resented me for that omission. I wouldn't allow my children to see me either, because I thought I had to protect them. I didn't tell them that their mother had married someone else, and I was the cause of that. I was shielding myself from the truth, and not them. I thought I could have her home by now. How fucked up and arrogant was that? Jonas would be the only one to understand how I felt. However, when I had my man James look for Jonas, he was being held by the Mexican authorities, and I had to make an appearance, but it wasn't around anyone who knew me. I'd let my man handle that, because even though no one knew me in Mexico, I had several companies there under another name. It would have been harmful to explain my connections to my brother and the man who died. Jonas had been shocked by my appearance, but he behaved as if nothing was wrong. "I'll stay with you at the hospital until the surgery is over," Jonas said. As much as I appreciated that, I wished he'd go to my children and be there for them. "I wish you'd just see to my children. They will need you more. They will need you and Alex more than me. I have to find her or find out if she's dead. That's the only way we will heal. It's the soldier in me. I have to do this, Max, so let me try. You get well and I'll take care of this. You and Alex have always been there for me and taken care of me. Now it's my time." The hospital wasn't but a half an hour drive from the hotel. We had to valet park and headed in the direction through the lobby, and we were sitting in the doctor's office a few minutes later. I had been checked in, and the nurse came out to greet me and take me in the back. "I'm going with him," Jonas said. The nurse glanced at Jonas standing near me, and then she saw the resemblance through the cuts and abrasion and bruises. "Twins, right?" "Identical." I nodded. "I know how important it is that you two aren't separated, but I'm afraid you have to be this time. We weren't the kind of twins that dressed alike, married the same type of women, although I think Jonas would have married Alex's sister if she had a twin, or even if she had a sister." "I understand," Jonas said, and sat down and picked up the newspaper and a magazine. I disappeared behind double frosted glass doors. However, before I reached the doors, I turned around and Jonas's brows were furrowed at what he'd been reading. "We have to go now, Mr. Blackstone, the doctor is waiting." Chapter 4. Alex. When I glanced up, the handsome doctor was peering down at me. "Look at you, your cheeks are pink, your beautiful brown eyes are dancing, and your skin is glowing." With a twinkling glance he then winked. "Please, not another one. Not another man who finds me attractive. I've made some of the worst decisions of my life lately, and I don't trust my thinking now that I've been floating in the water for a week with the sun bearing down on my brain and sharks circling me looking for an evening meal. This doctor reminds me of a shark, but not one that will cause me harm. Are there any sharks that are harmless?" I thought. "I'm seeing you for the first time, miss. What do I call you? Haven't I heard that before?" My memory has returned, but I'm debating whether I want to give him my real name or not. "When I first set eyes on you, you were almost a skeleton, and your face, well, it's still beautiful, but more so now since it's filled out. You're beaming, and that smile is enchanting. You can call me Alex." "I heard that name somewhere, but I can't remember," he said, checking my vitals. "Perhaps it was on the news. There's this news report about a woman named Alexandra Blackstone. I can't remember what's it about, because my duties had been to keep you alive, and I managed to do that against your willingness to want to die. I never wanted to die. He doesn't know me, and he's made the wrong diagnosis. Lucas strolled over to where I sat, and placed his finger under my chin and brought it up. I can see those beautiful brown eyes, and I wonder what you're thinking. I didn't want him to say how bloodshot my eyes were, because he should have seen my late husband's eyes. I can see him in my sleep, and that frightens me that a man could bring me to the point where I was willing to end him, and perhaps myself. Then there's my children Max and Jonas. I couldn't think about leaving them, even if Max left me, but Jonas never did. I thought I was going to lose you one night. You were screaming and trying to call out someone's name, but you were too weak and fell back to sleep before I could get close enough to hear you. I had just stepped out for a moment, and when I returned it was as if you wasn't breathing, but I worked on you and here you are, beautiful Alex. Lucas reached for my hand. You were at your worst, but now it's as if you've awoken from a nightmare where you were being chased and you're ready to fight back. What caused this transformation? I wasn't ready to die. I had to think about what I wanted to live for, and I did. I had too much to live for, I thought, but I didn't say. I'd say you have a lot to live for. Marrying a wonderful man and children. Do you remember anything yet? I don't know why I was in that survival suit, and why I was in the water, but I'm sure something will come back to me. I glanced up at the doctor and he had this soft, gentle smile, and for some reason I trusted him, even if he reminded me of a shark swimming around but not eating. At this point I shouldn't have trusted anyone, but I knew I had to trust someone. Are you sure about taking me on for a few months? I'm a good cook and I like to clean. You're not a woman who should be cooking. Those hands should be pampered. I have a cook and someone to clean my home, so that's not necessary. I've made up my mind. You should come with me and stay as long as you want. You need rest, I can take care of you, and I need the company. My vacation home is on the beach, and you'll like it. Corpus Christi is a wonder small town, but growing every year. That's where my home is located, Corpus Christi, Texas. What do you say? Are you ready for some sun? I was more than ready for sun, however. I'd been in the sun for a year, but stayed inside either out of forced isolation or my own volition. When can we leave? If you're ready, we can leave tonight. We'll dock and I'm get off. Then that's decided. I'm leaving with you. Are there any ground rules before I go to your home? Only if you want to make some, he said. Okay, that sounded like something I could agree on. I will have my own room, and you will not enter it unless I invite you. I will have my own space, and you won't invade it. He smiled and extended his hand, and I shook it. I can live with that, he said. You can't dictate where I go and when I go. Only if you tell me where you're going, and when you're coming back. I glared at him, and he lowered his eyes waiting for my response. Then he added, it's for your protection. I don't think you're well enough to walk around or drive, and you don't know the place, you may get lost, and then I'll have to call the authorities. I didn't want anyone calling the police until I knew what was going on first with Jonas and Max. You have a deal. I placed my hand out for him to shake it, but he took my hand and turned it palm up and kissed it, then he locked eyes with me. I hoped we could keep this as a doctor-patient relationship. I have a clinic that I run not too far from my home, and I'll be there sometimes during the day, and maybe on the weekends, and you'll be at my home recuperating. If you need me to buy you something, just write it down, and I'll pick it up for you, or I can take you and you get what you need. I think for now you need a phone. There are numerous cars in my garage, but until I know you've applied for a driver's license, my chauffeur will take you around. When the doctor left after the rules between he and I were established, I prepared to leave. There were some jeans and a shirt and hat, and I dressed because in an hour I would be departing this vessel and starting a new life until I could find the old life I'd left behind. The car and the driver were waiting near the dock when Lucas and I departed the vessel. The driver stood with the door opened. Before we stepped inside, Lucas said, "This is Harry, my driver." "Harry, this is Alex. She will be my guest for as long as she can tolerate me." Harry offered a closed smile, and after closing the door, he stepped behind the wheel and drove through the night to a gated community. I'd heard the waves crashing against the shore, and smelled the Gulf's water before we arrived. When the car stopped, the driver punched in a few digits as I glanced over at Lucas, but he appeared to be sleeping, and since I had nothing to talk about because of fears he'd ask me a question, I let him sleep. When the car stopped in front of a large brick home with a 4-car garage, palm trees, a fountain in the middle of the circular driveway, the driver pulled the limo up to the front door and he stepped out and opened the door, and that's when Lucas woke and said, "We're home." What a strange thing to say. I thought it would be, "I'm home." That didn't arouse my attention the way it should have, but maybe it should, but I had been grateful I had a place to stay, and no one had asked anything of me. I felt safe for once since I left the yacht I'd been on for better than 6 months. Then Harry helped Lucas out of the car, because he appeared out of it and somewhat groggy and weak in the knees. Maybe too much work and not enough downtime, I thought. I'd seen Max behave in the same way when I first met him, but his problem was he never slept, that is until he admitted that he'd been a sex addict, and his sex of choice was to have me lash his hard ass and fuck me hard, and then he'd sleep like a baby. When the door to the small mansion opened, I was walking in behind Lucas and his driver. "Show Alex to her room, Harry." "Did your wife purchase the things I asked her to?" "Yes, sir, she did. It's in the ladies' room. I have a room in the back which is nice." "Alex, I'm a little tired and I should sleep, and I'll probably have to make my rounds at my clinic. Taking care of you and trying not to lose you had been exhausting. I didn't get much sleep." That I understood, and I felt grateful and empathy for him. I wished I'd met him before Christian, I thought. It had been some unhappy, grueling years being married to Maximilian Blackstone, and this year wasn't any different. This year and last had been the most demanding on my life. I didn't have time to think about how my children were faring with the loss of their mother. I can imagine what Max had said to them. "Well, your mother has gone off once more, and I have to go look for her and bring her home. You know she was very young when I married her, but don't worry, kiddos, when she gets this latest adventure out of her system, she'll be home with us once more." That's just half of the things he probably said, laying the blame at my feet, because I wasn't there to defend myself. Jonas had tried to tell them that some of what their father had said wasn't true, but what could he say? I had done most of the things to help Jonas out, and the rest, I'd been a victim of Max's business deals. Like the man I'd married because of Max. I married Christian to be able to live, and to have my children with me. Max had cut me and Jonas off from any kind of funds without explanation, and we were one step from being homeless. After Christian, homelessness didn't look so bad. However, at the time, I'd been homeless before, and I didn't want to go that way again. "Miss, this is your wing of the house. You don't have to see anyone if you don't want to. Everything you need is in this area. It's what you call a family estate. You have your kitchen and bathroom, a library and movie room to the right. And it opens into a terrace where there's a hot tub and pool, if you want to swim for exercise." Harry opened the curtains, and there was the pool, and the beach not too far. In front of the glass doors, a walkway leading to the beach. It appeared to be a private area, and only the people who lived in the community could access it. The pool is fine. I think I'll be using that more than the beach. I've had enough beaches for the moment. I saw no expression on Harry's face, because he didn't know my story, and I appreciated that Lucas didn't fill him in on it. I wanted peace and quiet with my own thoughts, and to find out what was going on in the world. "Thank you, Harry, I need some rest too. Tell Lucas I'll talk to him in the morning." "Will you have breakfast with him?" "Yes, I think I will." "What time does he get up?" "He's usually up early 6 a.m., but he won't have breakfast until 9 a.m., and he has to be at the clinic at 10. He spends all day there, and he's home by 7 p.m. for dinner." I looked at Harry and he stared at me until I said, "Thank you, that will be all." And he left, and I sat on the bed looking outside through the patio doors at the dim lights along the walkway and the beach houses, and the lights from ships at a distant passing in the dark. After Jonas's wife's ex came into his home through opened patio doors, killed Jonas's wife and himself, I haven't wanted to be near a patio door since. I rose quickly and headed over, and turned the lock to check to see if it was locked. It was, and I hesitated for a few moments, looking into the darkness of the night, only seeing a few lights. I huffed out a hard sigh of relief, then I closed the curtains, and headed in the direction of the shower. The heat from the water flowing down on my body had been refreshing, however. It reminded me of the vast sea, and I cut those thoughts short. I don't remember dressing for bed, because I felt tired lately more than usual, but I managed to wake up feeling refreshed and alive. That was important, that I had survived, and I was alive to see my children one day. A soft small knock came to the door, and I was startled because I hadn't realized I wasn't at home. Sitting up and looking around, my mind began working, and I realized the surroundings were indeed foreign to me. Before, with Max at our home, my children would knock softly the same way, then they'd burst into the room and jump up and down on our bed. Those were beautiful, glorious times, and Max and I enjoyed having them with us early in the morning. Jonas wasn't far away, pleading for them to let us sleep. We never slept soundly when we knew the children were close and wanted the attention of their mother and father. I suspect Jonas thought we were engaged in sexual pleasures, which we were most of the time when Max had come home. We were, but only in the private area of our home the children knew nothing about. Missing the fun and closeness of my children and Max during those times had me feeling a profound sadness that I haven't been able to shake. I have to find a way to get back to them, because I'd been estranged from them way too long. I was in a dilemma now. What was I to do with Jonas? Our relationship had changed from being sister-in-law to lovers. I knew my feelings weren't as strong for him as his had been for me, and that would cause us lots of problems going forward the way things were now. But deep down inside, I couldn't forgive Max for what he'd done to me and Jonas. We were forced to do those things we never wanted to speak about or think of again. It was awkward, to say the least. If I go back to Max, and if he took me back, here we were all tiptoeing around the elephant in the room, and it would be what happened between me and Jonas on that ship. And I knew one day Max would utter those faithful words, "Did Jonas make love to you? Did you have an affair with my brother? Do you prefer him to me?" What was I to say? Yes, he fucked me and I let him. No, I didn't let him, but we were forced to do this act, and you are as much to blame as anyone for leaving me on that boat with that monster. That would have started dominoes to drop, and there would be no way to stop them until they all had fallen. The knock grew louder and louder when I didn't answer. I dashed from the bed to open the door. "I thought something had happened to you," Lucas said, looking frantic and pacing ready with a key to open the door. "I had to get my robe," I said, not telling him I was deep in thought about my life, but then I couldn't say this because, as far as he knew, there wasn't a life before him, because I said I didn't remember anything, including my name. I said I'd chosen Alex out of the air. "I was wondering if you wanted to have breakfast with me outside. You don't have to change because I gave my staff the day off. Everyone except my driver. My cook set up a buffet outside my patio door." I'd been hungry, therefore I agreed, and it seemed it was the least I could do because he'd been kind to me. "Sure, give me a few minutes and I'll get dressed and meet you there. It seems your cook has a great taste in clothes." I told her that you're maybe 25 or 30, and you have refined taste. "You could think that just looking at me?" I asked, wondering what he knew I didn't. "You do know I was the one who cut your clothes off and dressed you, right? I know every mole on your beautiful body, and you only have 2, and I know you're a brunette." He smiled, and for some reason I smiled too. "I've never seen more expensive undergarments as yours, and I've seen plenty. We're talking, I couldn't venture how much you or someone paid for those few pieces of garments," Lucas said, his lips rising into a smile. Enough of my panties and bra, I wanted to say, but thought better of it. He would die if he knew what Max paid for a fantasy bra with the panties to match just so he could rip them off me. If I'd thought to bring my fantasy bra to Jonas's wedding, I wouldn't have gone through this terrible ordeal of marrying someone to get back at Max, and to keep me and Jonas from being homeless. My fantasy bra had been custom-made with the most exquisite yellow diamonds. However, I couldn't predict that I would be at everyone's mercy within a day of Max seeing me and Jonas together, and interpreting the picture wrong. Max had flown into a fit and walked out and proceeded to turn everyone's world upside down, and probably his too, and even now I can't fathom how to forgive Max. Come, you don't have to change. Eat and read the paper and go back to bed. You need the rest. It's only been a few days since you woke. What could I say to him? He was the doctor. Chapter 5. Alex. After breakfast, Lucas stood and smiled. I have to go to work today. He reached for my hand and kissed my palm. You don't know how happy I am to have someone here when I get home. We will have dinner together? Please. Of course we will, and I'm dressing for the occasion. When Lucas turned, I saw he'd forgotten his newspaper. As I was making a move ready to call out to him, I noticed the headlines. The wife of billionaire Christian Kenley is wanted for questioning for his death. The authorities now believe she may have survived the suicide pact. Mexico has jurisdiction over the case, since it occurred in the Gulf of Mexico near Cancun. There was more information, but it was just guesswork, and I'm sure there was a lot of guessing to go around. No one knew the details of his demise but me and Jonas. I took the newspaper back to my room, hid it for later, and stared at the television. I didn't want to know anymore because I wanted to wipe that out of my mind, and live in the moment because I felt that was all I had until someone could figure out what happened. And I'm sure someone would one day. However, not today. Today, I was free at the moment. Then I decided to toss the newspaper into the trash, and I crawled back into bed and put the covers over my head, hoping like a child that when I came from under the covers, everything would be better, and the nightmare would be a memory. It was like that when I was put up for adoption, and I woke as a teenager to find I had been shuttled from one place to another, until I decided it was enough, and I'd rather sleep on the streets than to go back to that group home. I've gone full circle and now I'm homeless once more, and this time I feel like crying, but I won't. Nothing was ever solved when I felt sorry for myself. To cry was to show others I was weak, not the one who could take everything thrown at me, not shed a tear or whimper like a child and go on with my life, and I did. After a rest, I'd go shopping to forget all that past humiliation aboard Christian's yacht. Shopping would be the only way to take my mind off of everything, lose myself and plan what to do next, and a way to get some peace. After begging Lucas to drive without a license, he capitulated and offered me a brand new Jeep which was parked outside. Lucas was a soft sell. After a short rest, I dressed and headed out and found the car, opened the door and climbed in and started the car. I couldn't remember the last time I drove somewhere alone, if not to drop my children at school. Just thinking about my children was my Achilles heel. They were the only ones who could bring me to tears. With my children, my tears were weak. They were the tears of a child, if I allowed them to flow. I passed my finger under my eyes to clear them as I drove. I'd probably cry for weeks, thinking about how I haven't seen them in over a year. Therefore, I decided not to give in to Max. Not like before. I'd find a reasonable way out of this without begging Max to take me back. I would make a plan, and live with it, and it wouldn't involve having sex and marrying a man I didn't love. I headed out not knowing where I was going, but I planned to drive around until I could get my mind focused. I had plenty to think about, and driving would help me also. The gates opened as I drove through, and I watched the tall palm trees whiz by in a blur of green and brown. The street was lined with palm trees and large homes. It was a beautiful calm sight to see after seeing nothing but water on the yacht and floating on my back for a week without food or water, and terrified of sharks, even though the survival suit was thought to be shark-proof. Max had given me detailed instructions on how to use one if the yacht he'd own would get caught in rough seas and sank. I had been a skeptic that it would happen, but he insisted it was important for one of us to survive for our children. And that was the main reason I paid close attention. I decided the first place to go would be a small drugstore because even as Lucas tried to make sure I had clothing and underclothes, he didn't think of everything, and then I needed makeup, and I would stop at the nearest department store hoping I didn't call attention to myself. When I was on my way, I drove down a street I wasn't sure about because it appeared to end, and I had to turn around, but I saw the beauty of the well-tended lawns with bougainvilleas in every color, most red, climbing on fences and shrubs. The color of nature took on a different feel in a warm climate than where my children and I lived to satisfy Max. I'd forgotten how I'd felt living in an isolated, cold, wooded area. And I didn't want that anymore. Not just for me, but for the children. Here there were birds and squirrels scampering from tree to tree, and swans swimming on the surface of the man-made lakes a few feet from the shoreline. My first thoughts were, why did they need a man-made lake when there was the beach? I stopped thinking because I didn't have a care in the world as I drove through the gated community, but looking back in the rear-view mirror at the entrance, it felt like goodbye. But I knew this would happen sooner or later, and it's better to go than to be dragged away kicking and screaming, perhaps by the authorities when they discovered my secret, or Lucas had discovered what I'd been hiding. I had strangled Christian because he did the most despicable things to me, but in truth, I had done this to myself and Jonas. I knew I couldn't be here long with Lucas because I was just passing through like everything I'd done before in my life with Max and my children, and that alone made me sad. The amount of time I'd been missing from their lives because of knowing the Blackstone twins and being in the middle of their craziness, I could write a book. As I thought about where I was going and what I was doing here running from my life, I knew I could run no longer, and I had to get back to my children, and this time I wouldn't cave into Max's desires and wishes, and allow him to take my children from me without a good fight. As I drove, avoiding the places I needed to go, and if I didn't turn around, I'd keep driving, and I wasn't prepared to meet Max on his terms. I had no money, and I didn't want to ask Lucas for any, because I'd have to tell him all about myself, and I didn't want to drag someone as nice as Lucas into my Blackstone world of handsome, vindictive, jealous men who were capable of anything, and especially his beautiful psycho twin brother who'd do anything I'd ask of him. I'm afraid to get Lucas caught up in that. Parking and checking for the credit card Lucas had given me brought several risks. For one, he could track me if he needed to. I checked a compartment and found 320s. A smile washed over me because I hadn't seen money in a long time. I was never given any lately, just credit cards where someone could track me. I was free now, and I would start all over. The first thing to do was to get a job. But what could I do, and who would hire me without identification? Maybe Lucas. Maybe I could work the phones as a secretary of some sorts at his clinics. Not sure about that, I stepped out of the car at a large store, Dillard's. When I glanced at the $60, where was I going with this? I couldn't buy a hamburger meal. Maybe with $20, and that would leave me $40. Still not enough for anything in a department store. I turned around and climbed back into the car, punched a button, and put it in gear and roared back to the mansion to get started on looking for a job where I can get enough to go home to see my children.